Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I haven't been online on YouTube as much lately, but life has been steaming forward for old Jinka Jabo here. So anyway, we need to get to the news, and that is Kavanaugh. That's all anyone is talking about. So I'm going to give my thoughts on the Brett Kavanaugh investigation, and sort of a response to it's not even trolling that I do, but when I see political opinions that really frustrate me, I always like to call them out. And I often get into a lot of fights, some contentious arguments with the Quakers, whom I've talked about before, who at one point I would consider them my church, my worship group at times when I lived in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Missouri. Like back in the States, these were the groups that I would always flock to, but in the time that I've become more politically aware, I've found that so much of what they support goes back to meaningless leftist causes that they can't even back up. But that's kind of unfair to say. I'm going to speak specifically about Kavanaugh, and as sort of I'm going to direct this towards Quakers that I've talked to online. Society of Friends, the Universalists who at one point were Christian, but that's a whole theological thing. On to Kavanaugh. So yesterday, much of the world was just enraptured following the hearing, the Senate hearing prior to the confirmation of Kavanaugh, which might be voting. They might be voting on it right now. I'm not sure when that vote is supposed to take place or if they will postpone it. Of course, there was great fear when Trump got his first Supreme Court nomination. That's one of the greatest powers that a president has, because the Supreme Court justices stay on for their lifetime, right? Even when they're too old to really sit up straight, such as Ruth Bader Ginsburg right now, they still have that extreme power. It's in some ways they're politically more powerful than the president. And the great fear is that having a Republican president means that you will get a Republican or a conservative Supreme Court justice. And the major talking point that the boomers always go to, which is the big scary point, is Roe v. Wade. There's always this talk of, well, if a conservative president appoints conservative justices, then eventually abortion will be illegal again, and it'll be Handmaid's Tale all over again. And we must stop this power at any cost. And so we have the Women's March, we have pink hats, we have all of this saying no matter who he chooses, that person will be a terrible threat. The Cheeto monster, the Cheeto fascist or whatever, he's the one that's going to stop women's rights. Forgetting the fact that Trump very plainly said that Roe v. Wade has already been decided. The legality of abortion has already been decided. And not only that, but he also supported funding Planned Parenthood. He said he wasn't going to cut it all. And this was during the debates and all that. And so he still has to fight this simply because he is a Republican. Anyone with an R next to their name in these heated political times is under constant threat. There's the constant witch hunt right now. And it all circles together. So the Women's March, I bring that up because Dr. Ford was involved in the Women's March. And she has been politically active since, at least since the time of Trump's nomination, or Trump's election. I'm mixing that up now. She says that if Kavanaugh is made a justice, that she will go to New Zealand. And I feel bad for the Kiwis because it looks like that's where she's going. I certainly hope that he gets to be justice. I was ambivalent before. I didn't really know much about him. If anything, I thought he was maybe too centrist. There's a reason that presidents choose a more centrist justice, because they know that these hearings can be very brutal. And there is a lot of fight to get a justice on the court. So anyway, Dr. Ford has been politically active, doing everything that she can to fight Trump. And it's right there in the open. And so for people to say, well, why would she come forward? What would she have to gain by exposing herself like that, putting herself in such heat, why would a politically active California professor who is an outspoken opponent of Trump, who was a major participant in the Women's March in Washington, like, why would she do it? Well, there you go. You have the motive right there. But forgetting the motive, let's not even look at that, because there simply is no evidence against Kavanaugh. And not only that, but he has alibis for the entire summer in question. Not that that really helps, because the accusation is lacking that detail. And the accusations, I guess many accusations now, have been flatly disproven at this point. All we have is the tearful testimony given by Dr. Ford, which is quite sad. And I watched it, and I wasn't so moved by it, honestly. She had kind of a rising intonation, like how a kid talks when they're giving a book report and they don't really know what they're saying. Maybe that's a California thing, I don't know. I'm from the Midwest, and so we make fun of the California hippie accent or something. Or maybe it is incriminating in some way. Why not? I mean, if these allegations made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, if that's all we're looking at, if this is the shit show that it's become, where it's just a matter of comparing one performance against another, then what do the rules matter anyway? It's so funny that this is taking place, and I say funny, I mean it's so terrifying that this is taking place at the highest level of our court, the highest court in the land. This is what we're dealing with. This is the hearsay and the baseless allegations, and this is the rubble that this is all turned to. And I just pray to God that this will pass, and that he will be on the Supreme Court, and this will hurt the Democrats as it should. As the whole boy who cried wolf, this is the girl who cried wolf. As it was pointed out to me, which I do agree with, which I do accept, is the fact that most sexual assaults go unreported. And even of those that get reported, it's very rare that the man in question is convicted for that. I understand that, which is what makes this so pernicious. This is what makes it so awful, is to think of the fact that, the liar coming forward is putting all women at risk. Maybe in her twist-up thinking, she's thinking, well, if it hurts Trump, then it really does support women, and it does support her career. And you look at how much money she's made. Wow, she's made hundreds of thousands now just raising money, just trying to set up GoFundMes and stuff. And so there are benefits. There's the political benefit, but then there's also a clear economic benefit. These are motives. This is how the law works, okay? And so you can't just level accusations against someone and destroy their life forever without consequence. Come on. And the really sick thing about this is that even though it's clearly not true, and I doubt he will get in any trouble for this, the fact is, simply because the allegations have been made might render him unfit to be justice anyway, which is sad. It's really sick when you think about it. That this whole by any means necessary Saul Alinsky boomer crap has led us to a leftist state where you can just level accusations against someone and you can destroy them, and that's it. And yeah, there are legitimate concerns. I don't dismiss the whole Me Too movement or anything like that. I'm very happy that pervert, that horrible jerk Bill Cosby, that sick psychopath, is going to prison, even if it's just for like 3 years or whatever. I'm glad that people have been called out for this stuff. But the difference between Cosby and Kavanaugh is the difference of evidence. It's the difference of what can be proved, what can even having the shadow of doubt. Like, he is able to go back, and he went through tearfully and showed he was talking about his calendars that he kept as sort of a diary, in the same way that his father kept kind of diary calendars, which is, a kind of type A thing. It's a very organized, neat thing. That's something that a judge needs to have. And again, they're saying, oh, well, he got emotional because, like, he's too emotional to be a justice. It's like, no, emotional judges are a good thing, I think, because his emotions were rooted in the evidence that he was presenting. Whereas it wasn't just some story. That's what it was, this story that Dr. Ford made up. This rehearsed story that she couldn't even talk about without making it sound like a question. That's the difference. And that's what makes this so terrifying. It reminds me of the Kafka novel, The Trial. Granted, let me step back here. This isn't a trial. This is a work interview, really. A very difficult work interview. But it reminds me of The Trial by Kafka. And in the end, he's, after being accused and not being told what he's accused of, and being sentenced to court dates, but still being allowed to go to work, and everything that happens to this poor Joseph K. character, they drag him into a pit, and they take out a knife, and his two guards take out a knife, and they look at it, and they pass it back and forth, as sort of giving him the idea that he just wants to take it and stab himself, right? So they're sort of planting it in his head, they're making it possible without killing him. Orson Welles disliked the ending so much that when he made the movie, he had them just throw dynamite, and that's what killed Kay. But in the original novel, he takes the knife and stabs himself. And it all goes back to giving someone, anyone, the power to simply destroy a person's life by making an accusation. Everyone says, well, what if that was your daughter who was hurt? Well, I don't have children, but I would hope that if something like that happened, it wouldn't take 35 years to come out. And it wouldn't be this politically charged sort of thing that would call it all into question. It's politics, plain and simple, it's politics. And if you're not seeing that, if you want to listen to what John Oliver or Stephen Colbert or what any of these other establishment, lamestream media pundits want to tell you, go right ahead. And if you want to go through my page and like point out, oh, well, you were wrong about this thing, or you were wrong about this, or this post, fine, you can go through. I invite you to watch all of my channel, or all of my videos, right? I'm right in the public, and so if I'm wrong, tell me, but come at me with facts, not with feelings. What a sad story that we're going through. And the only victim here is Brett Kavanaugh. And even when he becomes Supreme Court Justice, which I am confident will happen, it will still be bittersweet knowing that he's had to explain all of this, all of these sordid, malicious, and disgusting accusations. He's going to live with them forever. And that's pretty terrible. And that just shows the desperation that the Democrats are feeling. So here's my prediction. What's going to happen is that Kavanaugh is going to become justice, and then early next year, I'll say that Ginsburg dies, and that Trump gets to have an even more conservative justice take her place. And that's proper. That's justice right there at the end. Over and out.